Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. It has been, well, happy Earth Day. We should start with that. It has been just an incredible day so far. We've been connecting with scientists, explorers, conservationists from all over the world. By the end of today, we'll have live broadcasts from all 7 continents. We also have a live event from the ocean, the Arctic Ocean, which means we're connecting from both polar regions today, which is pretty cool. So anything you may have missed from this morning, we've already been to Antarctica, to Europe in the United Kingdom, to Malawi in Africa, and now we are making our way to Hong Kong in Asia. And you can catch up on all the events you missed on our YouTube channel. All the videos will be there to tune into, and we still have much more to go today. So we're going to North America, out to the Arctic Ocean, to South America, and then we'll wrap up the day down under in Australia. Now, I could talk all day about how amazing our planet is, but I've got an expert here who's going to pop in for a moment and just help us think about our planet. So bear with me for a second while the screen shifts over, and I hope you enjoy this little message.
Hello, everybody, and happy Earth Day. My name is Jessica Meir, and I'm a NASA astronaut currently living here on board the International Space Station, supporting the Expedition 74 mission. We are currently about 408 kilometers above the Earth, moving at 28,000 kilometers per hour, and making a full orbit of the planet every 90 minutes. That's a lot of sunrises and sunsets, 16 per day. While we're here, my crew and I will contribute to hundreds of scientific investigations and technical demonstrations. As a scientist and an avid explorer, I find the Earth sciences and observations captivating. I want to give a big shout out to all of the classrooms joining Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants today to meet scientists and explorers from across the planet. You'll be making live connections from all 7 continents and from the ocean. But I thought you might want to see a bit of the incredible view of our home that myself and my 6 colleagues get to see each and every day. This is my 2nd visit to the International Space Station, and when I look back at Earth, I see something extraordinary. This gorgeous blue gem is encompassed by a thin, tenuous band of atmosphere, responsible for supporting all life on our planet. From this vantage point, we are not only struck by Earth's immense beauty, but also by the fact that it is utterly fragile here in the void and blackness of space. It is immediately clear that we all must do our part to protect it. The diverse color palette is overwhelming. Swirling coastal currents framing the continents, the array of shapes and textures of sand dunes in the desert regions, even simply seeing the shifting clouds from above presents an endless gallery to behold. I can certainly say that even after 205 days of my first mission, and now more than 2 months into the second one, the view never, ever gets old. I'd like to say thank you to everyone for letting me pop in to say hello today. I hope you have a wonderful time meeting scientists and explorers from around the world, and that you're inspired to learn more about this one-of-a-kind place we call home. Thank you, and goodbye for now.
All right. Well, a huge shout out to Jessica for sending that amazing message from the space station. We couldn't have been more excited to have received it. So thank you, Jessica. We are going to get into the action now. We're jumping to a new continent. We are heading to Asia. And you know what? We talk a lot about our Earth, and a lot of times we talk about the animals. And the animals are incredible. Of course, we love the animals, but we don't often talk about the plants, the trees, the algae, all of the important green that helps our planet so much, the base of our food chain. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. We're going to get the plants, the trees in on the action. And just like our animals, they're under threat as well. So Hong Kong is a hub for the illegal wildlife trade. $800 million worth of trafficked wildlife is seized, each year. So we're going to connect with Uva Fung today. She researches the illegal harvesting of incense trees. So this is a species native to southern China, threatened by illegal harvesting and smuggling. So she's going to tell us all about the work she's doing behind the conservation of these species. So I'm going to reach backstage right now and let's see if we can get Uva in here with us right now. Hi, Uva. How are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
Good, good. It's so great to have you connecting live with us. Not only are you joining us from Hong Kong and representing the continent of Asia, but you're representing our green. You're representing the plant species. So really great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Joe.
Perfect. Well, shout out to the classrooms who are tuning in and those who will tune in later. Use the hashtag Earth Day Live and post a picture on social media. We'd love to see your classrooms in action hanging out with us. If you are joining us live via YouTube, don't be shy to use the chat sidebar. Let us know where you're tuning in from and send in your questions. We have a couple of classrooms who are hanging out backstage with us. We're going to come visit you soon when the Q&A portion starts. But Uva, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit before the Q&A.
Cool. So is this on right now?
It looks good. We got it nice and full screen.
Perfect. So hello, everyone. My name's Uva, and I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Hong Kong. So today I'm going to tell you a bit about my research on wildlife forensics and what we're doing to help stop illegal wildlife trade. So to start with, I'd like to talk a bit about legal wildlife trade. So what exactly is it? It is the trade of multiple plant and animal species within a country and also across border illegally. And this is a global problem which worth at least $20 billion a year. And many animal and plant species are threatened. So in this photo, the photo on the top right, you can see that there are pangolin scales, which are actually being heavily hunted across its native range because the scales have been allegedly said to have different medicinal properties. And you can also see in the bottom photos that there are tiger pelts and also different ivory and animal bones, which are being sold for various purposes, for decorations, for rugs, etc. And then also on the photo on the left, we can see a bunch of wood. These are actually rosewood species, and they are also heavily harvested and illegally traded because they can be used to make furniture and such. So many of these illegal wildlife trade has actually driven extinction of multiple species across the planet. And in particular, Asia is a major hub for illegal wildlife trade. So how can we stop illegal wildlife trade? So the governments have established many laws and regulations to punish traffickers who would bring illegally animals and plant products across the border. There are also a lot of education being done to reduce wildlife trade. For example, telling people not to buy products made from protected species or using other alternatives instead. Many NGOs are also supporting local communities to protect wildlife instead of exploiting them for their making money. And also there's been more and more research on using technology against poaching. And this is actually what I'm going to talk about today. So my research focuses on development of different genetic tools to help alleviate poaching and illegal harvesting across ancestry species. So to start with, I want to bring you to Hong Kong, where we have really beautiful lush green forest. And one day in the wild, we saw that this tree looks a bit suspicious. It's a bit odd. And when we look closer, we can see that actually chunks of wood have been carved out from this trunk, as you can see on the right. And not only that, but we can see that the bottom part of the tree at the base has also been carved out, huge chunks of the wood. So this poor tree got cut down. Who did this and why did they do that? So let's solve this case together using genetics. So to start with, our victim tree here is called the incense tree, Aquilaria sinensis, and you can see the beautiful flowers on the top right. So this tree is an evergreen tree species, meaning that it stays green all year round. The leaves won't turn yellow nor drop off during autumn or winter, and they are native to southern China. And you can see that they're dotted around Hong Kong and also different provinces. So what is so special about this tree? So when they got injured, they can form a fragrant type of wood called agarwood, and this agarwood is heavily valued in the market, and so many people will want to buy them for various purposes. This has driven a lot of harvesting across the native range, and so they're currently listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. So why is this tree species targeted? So the main reason is because that agarwood can produce a fragrant smell, and therefore they're frequently used in Asian and Middle Eastern temples and religious rituals. Some people also perceive them to be status symbols, and they would buy them for decorations, or as you can see on the photo, they would buy them for to make into jewelries and such. And they believe that having these agarwood products they would be able to show off that they're rich and they're wealthy. And most importantly, this has driven the price of agarwood, and agarwood has become so expensive that the good quality ones can worth more than gold. This has actually driven a lot of people and illegal poachers to go into the wild and then cut down these trees because they can make so much money from these. So, who did this to this tree? Luckily, some villagers spotted suspicious people showing up around the tree, and upon inspection, we actually found some suspicious wood chips in their belongings. So here comes a question. How do we tell if the wood chip actually belongs to the cut tree, or whether it's from trees from other trees, or whether they're actually brought across from other countries? So to answer this question, we're going to use DNA. So what exactly is DNA? DNA is a material that carries all the information about how a living thing will look and function. Essentially, it's like a barcode that stores all the information about how an individual will look like, how an individual will be like, and such. So every individual is unique, and they will have a unique barcode. And therefore, when they have any differences in the barcode, in the DNA barcode, they will have this would be, in that case, it would show the differences between the individuals, and this would also be reflected in their DNA. So for example, here, there's a difference in the DNA sequence, and so these two trees look different. So how are we going to use DNA? Firstly, we started by extracting the DNA from both our wood chips and also from our cut tree. After that, we would find a DNA sequence for both the wood chip and the cut tree to see if there's a match between the two sequences. So here comes the question. How do we know whether there's a match, and how do we tell how much is enough of a match to make sure that the wood chip actually matches to a tree, but not to something else? So to tell that, we will need to know how related they are, which essentially means that we're going to be building a family tree for all the trees. So in all individuals, you would share half of your genes with your dad, and you will also share half of your genes with your mom. So essentially, you'll be sharing half of your genes with your parent. And if you have a sibling, you also share 50% of the genes. In the case of twins, because you'll be sharing identical sets of genes, that means you two will be sharing identical sets of genes, and you'll be 100% share 100% of genes. However, in the case of trees, they could be and also other plants, they could be a bit more difficult, a bit more different, because in agricultural settings, you sometimes get quite a lot of clone samples, and therefore, especially in the case of plants, you could also get two individuals that share 100% of the genes if they're clones. So in the real life scenario, and also in our investigation, if two samples share more than 50% of their genes, this would mean that they're a matching sample, and in that case, we can tell that, oh, this wood chip would be from this tree. So when we ran the analysis, and then we figured out we have this beautiful plot that shows our results. So I'm going to talk you guys through what this plot means. So each dot represents one incense tree individual, and you can see there are different colors of dots. So each color belongs to one region in Hong Kong. And so what we're doing here is that we are hoping to compare the percentage of genes shared between our wood chip sample and also between other incense tree individuals in Hong Kong. And as you can see, most of the trees, they actually share less than 50% of the genes, except for this one tree with the pointer of the red arrow that shares more than 50% of the genes with the wood chip sample. And when we look at our records and when we check through the records, we figure that this is actually our victim tree. So we successfully found a matching tree. And based on this evidence, we provide this evidence to the prosecution, and we actually successfully provide evidence to prosecute 9 illegal harvesters, and they're now serving 30 to 15 months in prison. So congratulations, we managed to solve the case, and then the bad guys are in prison right now. However, there are still a lot of illegal incense tree harvesting cases going on in Hong Kong. For example, here are some photos that I took in the field, and on this tree on the left, its bark has been scraped off. So you can see that nearly 20 centimeters of bark has been scraped off. And the tree in the middle, it's got also quite a big chunk of its wood carved out from the tree trunk. So this is actually quite an old injury, but there's still been a lot of harvesting happening. And the other tree on the right, you can see that much of the bottom bit of the base of the tree has been scraped off as well. So even nowadays in the field, we still see many trees that are still being illegally cut off or cut down. And the crime scene investigation for incense tree continues. So I know this might sound a bit sad for the trees, but you guys can also help to protect all of our wildlife species. So what can you do to help? To start with, don't buy any protected wildlife products. For example, when you're going overseas for travel, you might see some really beautiful souvenirs made from seashells or feathers. If you're not sure where these products come from or where they're originally sourced from, then don't buy them. You should only buy them when you know that they're from legal and ethically sourced. And if they don't have, and when you ask them, and if they don't really tell you where they got it from, then you might be able to figure out that these are actually not legally sourced products and we should not buy them. You can also spread the word about wildlife protection to your community, to your families, your friends, everyone you know, to protect wildlife. And most importantly, learn more about nature, and you'll find that nature is so amazing, and then you'll find things that you like, the passion, all the beautiful wildlife. And I hope you guys all will love nature and enjoy nature. And if you have any questions for me, just feel free to. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. Uva, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I think it's so important that we realize poaching isn't just animal species. It is plants as well, trees as well. There's many species of plants around our planet that are on the verge of disappearing forever. And a big part of, there's habitat destruction, but poaching does play a role as well. People, the more rare something is, the more people will pay. And then you just get that loop where they're being removed, they're disappearing. People are paying big money for them. So we do have a great group joining us today. We've got a few classrooms hanging out backstage. We've got more tuning in live via YouTube. So if you have questions for Uva, you can use the live chat sidebar on YouTube. If you are backstage, I'm going to visit your classrooms one by one, and we'll take a moment to see if you have a question or two that you would like to ask Uva. So let's get into that Q&A action right now. We have Crystal's STEAM class hanging out with us right now. Let me see if I can bring them in here front and center with us. Hey, Crystal STEAM crew, how are you doing? Give me a big wave.
What's
there
up?
you are. Awesome. Good to see you. I'm wondering if you have a question or two for Uva.
Geneva?
I have two. One
about the trees and one about your background. Is that green screen or is it you actually outside?
I wish I'm actually outside, but right now it's 11:22 at night in Hong Kong, so I'm at home. But this is actually the incense tree that I'm working on. It's the actual Aquilaria sinensis species.
Okay, I thought it was a green screen. And now my question about the trees. Why do people cut them? And how are they illegally cut? Trees are meant to be cut. Just cut them. Don't just take parts of them. Just cut them.
Okay.
So people cut them mostly because of greed, because they can make big money. And also one reason for these illegal harvesters to come to Hong Kong to cut the trees down is because they themselves are mostly they're poor villagers. They don't really get to make much money when they stay in their own village. So when they realize that they can actually make much more money by cutting down trees, they would come visit Hong Kong and then cut down the trees. So in terms of what tools they use, usually they just use saws and axes. It's pretty basic stuff, but they still manage to do it pretty well, I have to say.
Yeah, so they wanted they were taking for the chips, right? They
would cut out like huge chunks of wood.
Yeah.
And also wood chips. So it really depends on how sometimes if they can manage to get away for like a few days, they'll actually like cut down that whole chunk, as you can see. Sure. Sometimes when they're just testing out the site or like visiting the site for the first time, they'll just like cut down a few pieces and such.
And that looked like huge chunks. Can the tree recover from something like that?
No, actually that tree fell.
Yeah.
So.
Crystal STEAM class, do you have one more for us before we jump to another crew? That's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Do doppelgangers share the same genes? Like, share?
Wait, here, come up so maybe they can hear you better.
Yeah, nice and loud for us. Come nice and close.
Do doppelgangers share the same genes?
Sorry, so what's sharing?
Do doppelgangers share the same genes? How does that work?
Do doppelgangers share the same genes? Doppelgangers?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are doppelgangers?
Can you explain your question a little bit?
Do they share the same genes? Like, are they in the same gene family? Are they related? Do they share the same genes, 15 or 100%?
Are you wondering about when they're trying to match to the different tree species, how close that their genes match? Are there exact copies sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's a very, very good question. Really good for spotting that. So in an ideal situation, you should be able to get 100% match between two individuals if they're identical. But in this case, we don't get 100, we get around 70-ish%. The reason is that for the wood chip samples, they are slightly degraded in the wild and they might get a bit moldy, so we couldn't get a very good quality DNA out of it. As a result, we might have some missing gaps in our barcode, so the barcode wouldn't match 100%. That's why we're not getting 100% match. But if we have some better quality tissues, like if we're using fresh leaf samples to compare both trees, then we would get a higher percentage. So it's possible to get a higher percentage, but that would depend on the type of material that we're getting DNA from.
All right. STEAM crew, thank you very much for those great questions to get us started. We might have time to visit one more, so have a think if you have one more for us before we say goodbye to Uva. I will come back, I promise. Let's go now to, we've got some grade 6s hanging out with us. How are we doing, grade 6s? There they are. All right. Well, we'd love to get a question. I see lots coming in via the YouTube chat, so we will come that way soon. And we'll take a couple questions.
Okay.
Hey, grade 6s, how's it going? Okay, we're ready for you.
Yeah. How do you extract DNA from the bark in the tree?
So that's a good question. So we have like a commercial kit that we would use to extract DNA from different materials, including plants, blood, animal muscles, etc. But in the case of wood, it's a bit more difficult because unlike tissues, unlike muscle tissues or blood, they're not that easy to be digested. Like they're pretty hard, right? So what we're going to do is that we actually add liquid nitrogen in. So it's like snap freeze them, and then we'll grind them down before we actually do extraction using a commercial kit. So that actually involves a bit more steps, but you can still get DNA out of it.
All right. I see we have someone else stepping up to the screen.
Is 30 to 50 months the average jail time if you are caught endangering a tree?
So the jail time differs. So it differs based on several reasons. So Aquilaria sinensis are protected by law in Hong Kong, so we do get higher sentences for that. And then the action of illegally harvesting for Aquilaria is also listed as a serious crimes. It's also included in the serious crimes and organized crimes ordinance in Hong Kong. So the illegal harvesters actually get a 25% longer sentences than what they were originally sentenced for. And also the differences between 30 to 50 is because there was one suspect that didn't plead guilty. So when he got sentences for guilty, he got the highest sentence for 15 months.
All right. Thanks, grade sixes. We are going to come back your way right closer to the end. We'll see if you have one more follow-up question for us. Now, Uva, I'm curious, with a lot of wildlife trafficking, it's, people who are collecting things like the pangolin scales, they're just trying to make a living. They don't have another choice. And they don't get paid a lot. It's kind of the middlemen and the people kind of higher up who are making all of the money. Is that a similar situation with something like the tree trade for something like the incense tree?
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is that many of the harvesters actually come from mainland China. So in their villages, there would often be like a middleman that would be in charge of the trading of these wood, and they would tell their fellow villagers that you can make money by cutting down the trees and then bringing a bit of wood chunk. So that's what that has been driving these illegal harvesting happening. And on the good side, that there's actually been more and more plantations in China. So people are actually planting these as kind of crops, and they would sell their trees of agar wood. So we're actually having a legal source of agar wood that's been happening across plantations that's been developing across China. So actually there's also been legal harvesting of incense trees going on. So actually complexer situations when it comes to genetics.
Okay. We've got one more group hanging out backstage. I believe they're joining us from Tucson, Arizona. If you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, we'd love to grab a question or two. Okay, we'll give them a second, see if they can get the mic unmuted. I think our MGB crew, I think that is Miss Blake's class. So 9th and 10th graders, if you're there in Tucson and you want to unmute your mic, we'd love to get a question. Or if you can't get it unmuted, we have our private chat. You can send us a couple of those questions in the private chat. So I'll keep an eye on the mic and see if I see it unmute. Let's go over to YouTube now because we have some questions stacking up here on YouTube. This is from Van Buren Elementary. There's some 5th graders, Uva, and they're wondering, are there active efforts right now to plant more incense trees?
There's actually been efforts to plant incense trees. So the government organizations have been collecting incense tree seeds in the wild, and there have been active replanting happening across Hong Kong. So we are seeing a lot of incense tree young trees being grown, but this will take time for them to mature. So the harvesters are actually targeting our bigger old trees. So what we're trying to stop them is to protect these bigger, older, more mature trees from being cut down.
Okay. Another question here in the chat. Curious about your studies. What did you take that kind of led you to a wildlife forensics career?
So it was I didn't start out to work on incense trees. So it's kind of like fate brought me to incense trees. And initially I was like, I think wildlife forensics is meaningful. But it was only after I saw my experimental tree being cut down and being like, you got chunks of wood being cut off the tree, and then I realized like these people are actually still doing this. They are like still doing illegal stuff in the wild in Hong Kong, and like I feel like I have the responsibility to stop them from doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what about the courses? What's important? Biologies, lots of zoology. What kind of courses were important for you when you were in school?
I'd say biology definitely, and especially because I'm working more on the genetic side, then biology is definitely very important. But I also do think I pretty enjoyed geography when I was in school. So like you get to go out into the wild, you get to experience different habitats, like just hang out in the wild. So I think these are pretty important subjects. I mean, all subjects are important, but if you ask me,
absolutely. And what about math? If you take biology, does that mean you don't have to take math anymore?
Unfortunately, no. You still have to do a lot of statistical analysis, so you need to have some knowledge in maths. Yeah.
Absolutely. So any students tuning in, math might not be your favorite subject, but it is very important for future careers, especially in biology and zoology and things like that. The math, it never goes away. All right, very cool. Let's see. One more here in the chat. What the consequences of trafficking plants and animals is? I know you touched on it a little bit already, but what can someone expect? Is it always enforced pretty heavily, or is it something that maybe there's a lot of work still to be done to make sure things are being enforced properly?
I think the biggest issue lies in the fact that different plant species can be hard to identify. So even for the incense tree, there are actually more. So I'm working on Aquilaria sinensis, but there are also other Aquilaria tree species, and they could be very difficult to identify just based on how they look like, based on their morphology, etc. And it's the same case for many of the plant species that are being trafficked. If they come in the form of like a wood carving or like a jewelry, you can't really tell which species it comes from, except from DNA. And sometimes the DNA might be a bit degraded, so you can't really tell for sure which species it comes from. So it could be very difficult to tell whether that product is actually from a protected species or not. So that's definitely something that needs more research on.
Okay. Let's shift gears and let's get some of our camera crew back on camera. We'll give them a chance to ask another question before we wrap today. So I'm going to go in reverse order to mix things up. Let's get our grade 6s back in here. If there's a second one there, I think we could probably squeeze in 2 as well. So
how do you keep track of all the trees that are getting harvested?
So the government's actually having a list of all the trees. So the government organization have like a dedicated crew for incense trees, and they would go into the wild and inspect all the trees. But this would take quite a lot of effort, and so we have been documenting the trees, and we're trying to beat our illegal harvesters as well. So it's quite an intense job. Yeah.
All right. Looks like we got someone else on deck.
What is the most popular illegal tree sold in Asia?
That's a very good question. I don't really know, because you got a lot of different tree species are being traded in Asia, and even for incense trees, Aquilaria, we have actually at least 21 Aquilaria tree species, and they're all pretty illegally harvested for the agar wood. So that's a good question. I don't really have an answer for that, but I guess we can Google and look up on it.
Absolutely. That should be a little research project for your classrooms. And I'll give you a little hint at the very beginning when Uva was talking a little bit about different tree species that could be illegally harvested for different versions. She did touch on this species. So there is a world's most trafficked species, but we're going to leave that to classrooms to solve that mystery and see if they can track it down. Okay, very cool. Thanks, grade 6s. Let's go back to our STEAM crew. Crystal STEAM class is here. There they are.
Hey, go ahead. Lily, over here. Camera.
How many endangered species do you think there is?
Wow, that's a lot. I can't really keep track of. There's more and more endangered species because of different various reasons, habitat loss and then trafficking and such. So there's actually so many, but we're trying hard to keep the numbers low and reduce them if possible.
Yeah, that is a super tough question because getting out into a forest and counting the trees is not easy. And the reality is, trees and plants, we don't even know how many species we have in the world. We're still discovering new species of trees, new species of plants. So a very, very tough question to answer. And I would guess, Uva, and you might, maybe you'll feel the same way too, that we might have lost some species of trees and plants and we don't even know it yet. We might not have even known that they'd existed in the first place.
Do you have a question?
So how much trees are even being harvested every day?
So the case numbers differs every year, and we're actually seeing a fewer, less and less poaching cases in recent years. So that's a good thing. But I also do think partly the reason is that many of these illegal harvesters, they're being a bit more obscure. So we are not sure if we're actually documenting the whole picture.
Yeah. So it sounds like maybe you've seen a little bit of a decrease in the numbers, but it could also be attributed to them just getting cleverer at moving things around. And that's a hard job. It's almost like that game at in the arcades, the whack-a-mole, where you're trying to solve the problems and tamp them down, but the other side is actively working to get around those issues.
Exactly.
Yeah. Crystal Steam Classroom, thank you so much for another couple great questions. That's awesome. Okay, let's go back to YouTube for a moment, and then we're almost at the time where we have to say goodbye for today. So let's see. Okay, I like this one. What advice would you give to classrooms or students who want to get out and learn more about the trees, learn more about the plants, the flora, as they're kind of lumped under in their own communities? What advice would you give them to go and explore a little bit?
I would say start out from your backyard, from your local community, learn about all the different plants and tree species that you have in your area. And I did find it very interesting that when you look closely in the trees, every tree species looks very different. I know, before I started working on this topic, I always thought they're just like green trees. They look all the same to me. But no, since I started working on this, and when I go into the wild, I would look in the bark, the texture, the colors, the shape of the leaf, how the leaves are arranged. So there are actually many different details that can tell one tree apart from another tree, and it's the same for all the different plant species. So you just have to look very carefully, identify all the different differences between different plant species, and you'll find that there's a huge world of plants out there. It's a big world.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how do you find, being in Hong Kong, how do you find the youth, the students? Are they becoming more switched on to these issues? Are they becoming more passionate and maybe more interested in careers in conservation? What do you see when you observe the youth in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I do see that more and more young people are really getting more interested in conservation and ecology, and we're seeing much more passion among the youngsters, and I think that's a good thing because we always need more and more people to help us protect the wild. And it's also great to get new ideas and new minds and fresh ideas from the younger generation. So I think it's getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to our classrooms. Thank you to all of the classrooms, our backstage crew, our classrooms tuning in via YouTube, sending in questions. And I know there'll be more tuning in throughout the day as well. So thank you for joining us on Earth Day. If you can, use the hashtag Earth Day Live, post a picture of your classroom in action today, hanging out with us. And you can post that on social media. We'd love to see those pictures. Uva, not only do I have to thank you for an awesome event and hanging out with us today, I also have to thank you because it's 11:41 at night in Hong Kong right now. You only have Earth Day for a few more minutes. So I want to just give you a huge shout out. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today and for sharing the work you're doing, the conservation work you're doing, and how you're using technology to try and combat this illegal trade.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe, for inviting me. I really enjoyed this Earth Day, and it's been amazing to get to meet all these young people and having so many interesting questions. So I'm really happy to be able to join this today.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're getting ready to sign off for today. I do still see some students hanging out backstage. So if you guys want to give a little wave, a little shout out to Uva. Uva, thank you so much for being live with us today. And we are going to sign off for now. There's a little break. And then we are heading to North America, to the Toucan Rescue Ranch for our next live session. So hope to see you there. Uva, thank you so much. We're going to sign off for today. Thanks, everyone.